Hello, everyone. I'm super excited because we have a new monthly show, at least for this month and next month, fingers crossed, going on in the future. So we have Miss Angela Fischetti. Yes. You guys may have seen her in the comments a lot as Boomer and Beyond Wellness. She is not only a super fancy exercise teacher person, she is also a member of our community, which means, right? She's awesome and supportive, and you guys get to talk to her all the time. Hello, Debbie. It's awesome to see you from Missouri. So what we're going to do that's a little different, if you were at the last one where Vicki Brett Gock and Angela did, we're going to kind of just have a little bit of talk, a little bit of intro, and then she's going to do the whole exercise shebang. And that way, Cheryl can come back and just edit out a little bit if needed, and you guys can come back and do this workout over and over again. That's the goal. And we are doing, and I've got to look over here because it's been that kind of day, hip mobility in a chair. So when I talked to Angela, I was like, can we do something that's like really everyone can do? Because one of my concerns, I'm not an exercise professional, nor do I play one on TV. I make recipes. But what I see in the whole food plant-based community is that we're kind of like set adrift a little bit with exercise. I feel like there's not enough exercise people on shows all the time, so I want to feature that so you guys have a place that you can come. And I also have Rose Lapano comes on some too, so it's like two different styles, so whoever fits best with you, or you know what, you can do them all. That's what I'm going to be doing. Okay, and so it's really kind of Angela to come and gift us with this great workout. Make sure you look down in the comments because any of the things that she's using, I have her affiliate links down below. So if you go through there, you're helping support her while she's teaching you stuff. So that sounds like a good deal. And before we get started, I just want to say, Terry says thanks for the chair version and that she missed your other one, but she's going to catch the replay. Adriana says, yay, that's exactly what I need. Thank you so much. So I feel like we're already kind of in that little spot. Angela, would you like, I'm going to put it over to you. We're going to save questions till the end, and then I'm happy to ask whatever you want. You can still put them in the chat, and I'll save them for later. Angela, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself, the workout, and I'm turning it all over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathy, so much. Hi, everybody. It's really wonderful to be here with you. And thank you so much for letting me come back here again and present for you, Kathy, because I love your platform. I love being in your audience as well. But this is information that I think is very important to share with this particular audience. And just to those who were addressing the last class, that's very different. That was a strength training class, and that was done with weights. This one in a chair is all about hip mobility. And now to understand the difference between mobility and flexibility, because let me tell you, when I first started my career, I kind of interchanged those words and it was wrong. So flexibility has to do with muscles, but mobility has to do with the joint. Now, having said this, though this is hip mobility, does that mean that other areas of the body will not be benefited? Well, absolutely not. They will be benefited, right? So the muscles will be stretched out because there is nothing reductionist about exercise and movement. It affects the entire body. So I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things before we move into the workout. And this is going to be a chatty portion, but it's all very important for you. So I want to talk to you first about why I have a passion for teaching chair work, and it has to do with a couple of reasons. I find that and I might get in a little bit of trouble for this, but I'll risk it because, I love what I do and I love my colleagues, but I do find the fitness profession to be a little bit bougie, a little bit elitist, and also the whole concept of sitting is the new smoking. Well, I get it. And I understand where they're coming from with that. I absolutely do. Though Dr. Michael Greger would say it's not quite the same, but it's pretty close. And we have to pay attention to that. But where that's judgy to me is what happens to those people who must be in a chair, perhaps their job, and they don't have the benefit like I have. I have a standing desk, and it's an electronic desk that goes up and down. And I even use it like a boom for my camera, What about those folks who absolutely have to be in that chair for work? And what about the people who must be in a chair for health 24/7? So I say, rather than judge the chair, let's look at the chair from a different perspective, reframe it, and look at it from the perspective as a tool for health. And that's what I'm here to show you, is how we can work in a chair with basic, simple movements, but I can go deeper into the stretching part. And if you cannot go deeper to the stretching, you don't have to. You're using the chair as a tool in a way that suits you individually. But we can lift that perspective that it's just incredibly unhealthy. Well, let's make it work for you. So having said that, I want to talk to you and show you how I would like you to sit in a chair, and especially when it's all day long. So I'm going to turn to the side here just so that you can see what's going on. So first off, I'm sitting up on a cushion. And the reason is because when you sit, you want to have the acetabulofemoral joint right here. That's your hip joint. It's also known as the coxal joint. You want that to be slightly higher than the tibiofemoral joint of the knee. And if you are prone to sciatica, if you are prone to piriformis syndrome, both issues that can absolutely get ignited by sitting in a chair a lot, this could be a super helpful tip. So when you sit in a chair at your desk, when you sit in a chair at your kitchen or dining room table, heck, when you're even on a plane, they are the worst seats because they bring the hip lower than the knees. Now, I drive a very old car. I drive a 2010, and you better believe that the knees are higher than the hips and that, and I don't have all those fancy gadgets to adjust it, but I put a cushion in my car seat as well so that I'm not collapsing into that lower back. Now, what else I want you to pay attention to is this. A lot of times when people sit in a chair, they go like this. They put their feet underneath the chair. Now, if you have chronic knee issues, you don't want to hyper compress the knee this way. It's a hyperflexion of the knee. So you bring your feet forward. Now, what I really like to do is I like to sit with my ankles slightly forward of the knees. Now, I'm going to turn forward for you because I want to show you a little yoga tip. So what we're doing here today, I'm borrowing from strength training, I'm borrowing from stretching, I'm borrowing from yoga. Anywhere I can grab, folks, I'll grab to see if we can help you out. So you place the hands underneath the buttock flesh, and you pull your flesh not only straight back, but then you wick it out wide toward the shoulders. Now, why do I do that? Because now I am sitting up and forward on the front edge of the ischial tuberosity. We call these in yoga the sits bones. And if you do a little rocking side to side from one sits bone to another, you're going to feel them. And it's also really nice little massage on the gluteals, your lateral rotators. And it's great for piriformis syndrome and sciatica. So those are the tips on how to sit. I want to show you now what the movements of the hip joint are. And I'm going to sit back into the chair. So I'm going to hold on, and I'm going to bring the legs up and just demonstrate here to you. This is a hip abduction that's going away from the midline of the body. And this is a hip ADD, adduction, going toward the midline of the body. It could even be like this, where you open and close, open and close. Then we also have hip flexion. So just the simple act of lifting the knee up toward the chest is hip flexion. You're going to see me do a movement here on the chair where I turn around and I'm going to slide one leg back. This is hip extension. And if I lean back, I'm going to tie in back extension. Why not? Because this is the posterior extensor chain of the body, hamstring, glute, back erector muscles. Then also in the chair, we have or I should say also the hip joint, we have a medial rotation. It's not about the knee turning in, it's about the hip rotating in. It's also known as internal rotation. Then we have external rotation, lateral rotation. And then finally, something like this, which is a circumduction, a rotation of that hip joint. So we're going to tie all these movements in for you. Now we're going to move into the accessories part. So we'll be using a sticky yoga mat. I already told you about the cushion. Now I'm sitting up here, and you're going to see this little window behind me. Well, this is a yoga chair. It's just a frame, and it has an opening. Do you need to sit on a yoga chair? Absolutely not. I use a yoga chair for demonstration purposes. You could use any standard sturdy folding chair. However, make sure it doesn't have wheels. I don't care if they can lock in place, nor arms on the chair, because it could be very, very limiting for you. Also, now the surface, by the way, I would really prefer it not be on a carpet. Especially a mat on a carpet. You need to be very careful. And certainly, folks, never put the mat on a throw rug. And as far as I'm concerned, honestly, throw out that throw rug, because they can be dangerous. Now, moving on with other accessories, I will be using, and you'll see it here, this is a 45 centimeter stability ball. It's not fully blown up. It's got a little give to it, but I use this only for the purposes of this type of class. What you see next to me here, the yellow ball, that's really a ball that I use when I'm sitting on a ball to work out. And that ball is 65 centimeters, and I am like 5'6.5". It's just to give you an idea, if you don't have a ball and you want to look for something, to give you an idea of the sizes. Then I will also be using a yoga strap. And yoga straps, unlike belts, people say, well, can I use a belt? No, you can't, because they're very, if it's a hard bound belt, something tough leather or something like that, it's very harsh on your hands. So if you need something that's soft and you don't want to purchase a yoga strap, then why don't you use the belt from your robe, because they're typically a little bit longer. My yoga straps that I like to work with are between 6 to 12 feet long. And you'll see when I go to use it to demonstrate something to you, and I will in just a moment, I use an 8-foot strap. The other things we will be using will be 2 yoga blocks. Make sure they're both the same size as each other. If you're new to yoga blocks, this is level 1, level 2, and level 3. You use whatever works best for you. And then I will also be using a yoga bolster. Now, I'm very particular about my yoga bolsters only from this perspective. For some reason, folks, there's a lot of toxic chemicals that are treated and put on the coverings of yoga bolsters. You want to be really careful with that. And that's why this is one of the few items that I put a little bit more money into. And I got myself a yoga bolster with an organic cotton cover just to play safe from the perspective of chemicals. Now, I want to go back to the strap and show you something. For some of you, you're not going to be advised to do a forward flexion of the spine. So you're bending, you might have been told by a medical doctor not to bend down and pick up something. So when I do something like this, a hamstring stretch with the leg out in front, I'm going to come down and I'm going to really demonstrate it for you. But for folks with back spine flexion issues, and this includes but not exclusive to osteoporosis of the spine and the postural deviation known as hyperkyphosis, and that's the one where we have that sort of hunched appearance. I don't want you folks going further into flexion. So you take the strap, bring it around the ball of your foot, and I be careful because I do find people do this. They hunch, they have straight arms with a strap. Instead, what I want you to do, please, is to pull from biceps. So you bend the elbows, you depress the shoulders, and you pull. You use the opposite foot for leverage to keep you sitting tall. Belly button is in. So that's the type of adjustment you will make, please, for those particular issues. Moving on with the medical disclaimers and precautionary measures. Be mindful. The balls, the yoga mat, they're made out of latex. So if you have a latex allergy, please look for non-latex or latex-free. Also, if you are medicated or not for hypertension, have vertigo or GERD, please avoid this position of the cervical spine of the neck. I know it might seem silly just to look down and, no, keep your head neutral, please. And something I caught recently on another live that I was doing was I was noticing, because it was a Zoom, so I could see the participants in the gallery, and I'm seeing heads hanging down like this. But while they're doing the workout, and I'm like, hold the phone. Is your device on the floor and you're looking down while we're working out? And I'm seeing the nods of the heads. I'm like, no. So please, folks, when you go to do the work, keep your device up, eye level. I need your heads up, because this other person was complaining the exercises hurt her neck. And it's like, well, guess what? That position is going to hurt the neck if you're working out in it. I just really wanted to emphasize that for the moment. Now, I will be doing this movement at one point, which is a spine extension, a back bend of sorts. And I love to come into hyperextension of the cervical spine of the neck. There's nothing wrong with that movement because the neck is capable of it. However, if you have had a TIA, a transient ischemic attack, or a stroke, don't do that head position. You as well, you can do the movement like this. The whole rest of your spine will still be in a spine extension. You keep your head neutral. Now, look at the position of my hands. Sometimes when people work with their hands on the chair, they do this movement. This movement is contraindicated for carpal tunnel syndrome because this is wrist extension. I don't care where the forearm is. I don't care. It's all wrist extension. So what I like to do then is emphasize, wrap your fingers around the edge of the chair. You'll be able to do it with a straight wrist. Also, if you have pinched nerve or rotator cuff muscle issues, and I'm going to reinvite those who are medicated or not for hypertension into this particular movement to avoid Arms up and overhead. You folks may have been told not to bring anything overhead, or maybe it's even in a lateral flexion that I'll be doing. So you don't bring the arms overhead. It's perfectly okay. Hand to the waist will do. You can do another type of stretch instead of bringing arms overhead. So now we discussed knee issues. We discussed latex. And I believe I've covered all of the precautionary measures here for the day. However, the reason why I bring all of this up is if you have any chronic health concern at all, and whether I mentioned it here or not, I'm going to invite you to observe first before participating. And please, though, look for what you can do. But by the end of the video, if you're not sure what is appropriate for you, then I would invite the medical healthcare practitioner to preview the video as well to help you make an informed decision. So now we're going to move on into the work here. I'm sorry it's a long part of the presentation, but I consider it the most important part. I'm going to turn here for you, and we're going to work movements of the spine for our warm-up. I love doing that, and also kind of involves the hip, right? So we're going to place the hands on your thighs, and on the inhale, you slide your hands up your thighs, open and broaden the chest, draw the shoulder blades back, and yes, I have my head up, but we know TIA stroke will do it like this. And this is called in yoga, it's the baby back bend of cow, but it is a back bend. And then on the exhale, we're going to move into spine flexion. And those of you with those issues come to neutral right here, while the rest of us round the spine, belly button in, hook the hands over the knees. Lastly, lower the head. This is spine flexion. It's also like doing a seated abdominal crunch. And then inhale into the back bend of spine extension. Exhaling into spine flexion. Couple more here. Breath is in and out through the nose. And then we're going to pause right here in spine flexion. I want you to pull your belly button in so deeply you feel it coming out your lower back. And that's the deepest of your core muscles, folks. This is your transverse abdominis. And then we slide all the way back up. Hold here just for the moment. Breath in and out through the nose. Now, I'm going to stay here because we're going to move into that position I was showing you before, the spine extension with a puffed up chest, chin lifted, holding. Just an additional back bend. And breathe. Open that heart. Shoulder blades, scapulae retracted, drawn in toward each other. And then inhale, head to neutral first, and exhale, release. Now I'm going to face you here. And let's just take a couple of shoulder rolls up, back, and down. And when I do this, folks, it's not an elbow pump. It's a shoulder roll. Lift up to your earlobes. Everybody who works at a desk should take these breaks throughout the course of the day to get the blood flow into the joint. And now I'm going to sit back into the chair. I'm going to continue with more movements of the spine. So bringing the feet no wider than the chair, I'm going to slide my right hand down the outer back right leg of the chair. Now, be careful. A lot of times people collapse their chest down toward the floor. You're collapsing your side organs. Instead, use your opposite hand to the ribs and self-adjust. Turn the sternum, the breastbone, toward the ceiling. Now I'm not collapsed any longer. Bring the left hand to the waist for pinch nerve or rotator cuff. And then on the exhale, arm up and over. So it's reaching out through both sets of middle fingers for a lateral flexion. I'm stretching the muscles between the ribs called the intercostals. They are responsible for 25% of your respiratory cycle. Now inhale, turn that palm up, grab an imaginary hook. Exhale, vigorously reach out, push down into your right heel, return to center, and I'm going to take it to the opposite side. Inhale down, exhale, arm up and over. Breath in and out through the nose. We're also stretching the internal and external oblique muscles of your core, your abdominals, partially responsible for turning and twisting the torso. And then inhale, palm up, grab an imaginary hook. Exhale, push down into that right heel, return to center. And now, while we stay seated here, I'm coming a little bit forward. I'm not sitting back all the way back, but if you must sit all the way back, that's perfectly okay. If you have a cushion, if you have a yoga bolster, whatever works for you, and you have a hard time sitting up, put that behind you for the whole class. That's fine. So now I'm going to work with what is called, in yoga terms, we call it a Sufi grind. So what is it? It's a spine extension. I'm keeping the head up. I'm not rounding the spine. I'm doing lateral flexion into spine flexion, lateral flexion into extension. Take your time. I'm keeping the movement small and narrow because there's a lot of abdominal work when you do this. And it's such a beautiful movement to release the back. And I'm going to reverse direction. Breath in and out. And it's called the Sufi grind. Oh, feels so good. And one more. And back to center. Now I'm going to grab my ball, the 45 centimeter ball, so it's the smaller ball, and I'm going to take my legs wide apart. So we want to be careful with osteoporosis of the hip or hip replacement, because you may have been told not to bring your legs out super wide, so you bring your legs more narrow, all right? So I'm going to bring the ball out in front, but I'm keeping my head up. I'm looking for length of the spine. I'm not looking for you to collapse. It's not about how low to the floor you get. What I'm focusing on is pressing my thighs toward the wall behind me. So what is this? It's hip abduction. I'm going away from the midline of the body, but this is also external rotation or a lateral rotation of the hip joint. And I'm working this, folks. I'm not just, letting it all flop. Press it out and hold. I also want the chin up here on purpose, because both the cervical spine of the neck and the lumbar spine of the low back have a natural lordotic curve. So they lend themselves to this extension movement. Now I'm going to take the ball over to one foot. I do this because the quadratus lumborum muscle, the QL, located just below your 12th rib. It has attachments at the floating 12th rib to your lumbar spine and then to the posterior iliac crest, which is your high hip bone. And that gets not only tight, but as a massage therapist, it feels like it gets shortened on people who have to sit a lot for their profession or their help. And I'm taking it over to the other side. I find that people who have to drive a lot, like truck drivers, might have a real issue here, and taxi and Uber drivers, etc. And one more time, back to center. And those of us who do a lot of virtual work, we're at the desk a lot. So this is great stuff to release that QL and slowly come back up. I'm going to set the ball off to the side. Now, I like to get, this might roll away to the back, that's fine. I like to get ankle work in here because from sitting for a full, like a really long length of time, you can get the fluid accumulating in your calves, in your shins, in your ankles, in your feet. So I want you to toe, heel. See how I'm exaggerating to bring those legs closer together. Hold here just for the moment. Take a couple of breaths. Now I'm going to grab a yoga block. I'm sitting forward. I'm not sitting all the way back into the chair. So if you find when you sit back, when you put the block between your knees, your block might hit the chair. So if you have something to support and help you sit forward, use the bolster, use a thick cushion if you like. So I'm going to squeeze the block. Now, be careful. A lot of people do this. They bring the feet together thinking I'm going to squeeze it really hard. No, I want the hip adductor muscles, the inner thighs, to do the work, not your ankles. So the feet are just as wide as your blocks. Typically, blocks are 2 inches or 3 inches wide. So now we're going to come into a twist. Left hand to the outside of the right thigh. Those of you diagnosed with osteoporosis of the spine may have been told, you better not twist a lot. Not everybody gets told that, but some people do. This is how we're going to work this for you. You take the opposite hand, bring it right smack on the outside of the hip joint. You roll that same side shoulder back. Inhale, you push down into both feet. And exhale, all you do is turn your head, not your torso, just your head. And that's about as far as you'll go. For the rest of us, arm up. I'm going to externally, laterally rotate from the shoulder, bring the arm through the window of my chair, taking a hold of the seat of the chair, pushing down into both feet. Inhale, lengthen spine. Exhale, turn the head and look over the right shoulder. So you hold here. It is most definitely a twist. In yoga, we call this half spinal twist, half fish. In Sanskrit, Ardha Matsyendrasana. Hold here. This is one of the reasons why you do not want to eat anything before this type of work. And then inhale, head forward. Exhale, torso, arm forward. Let's take it over to the other side. Right hand outside left thigh. Inhale, left arm up. And those of you who need the alternative, keeping it a shorter range of motion, you do the other. Exhale, squeeze that block, turn and twist. Do not allow the block to drop down. That means you're not applying much pressure. Don't be afraid to squeeze that block. Breath in and out through the nose. I want to make sure my outside shoulder is relaxed down instead of popping up toward my ears. I am pulling that belly button in. And then inhale, head forward. Exhale, torso, arm forward. Hold here just for the moment. Breath in and out through the nose. And I'm going to set this down. And what I'd like you to do is just sit back into the chair for a moment. And we're going to do hip flexion. So I'm going to interlock my fingers, bring them underneath my thigh. Now, if it's too much for you to use your fingers like that, then you can take your yoga strap and bring it underneath. But just make sure you're getting your biceps involved by bending the elbows. So I'm going to push down in one foot to lift the opposite. So there's a concept in yoga that I like to apply to all my movement, would be that there is oppositional movement going on at all times. So I push down to lift the opposite. Hold here. This is a hip flexion. And I'm going to do it to the other side. Push down on one, lift the opposite. So I'm going to keep doing that and alternating. And this is called half wind pose in yoga. So it's Ardha Pavana Muktasana, but it's a hip flexion. We're going to do one more to each side. Now, for those of you who do not have knee issues, all right, I'm going to place a heel on the chair. I want a deep hip flexion, where I am sitting up very tall. If you have knee issues, what you can do instead is hold it like we just did. We're holding behind the knee and pull it in as much as you possibly can. But for those who can do it with the heel up, take it. You wrap your arms around the shin. You don't want to do this, and I have to be careful demonstrating that because of the microphone, but you don't want to collapse over. So I'm pushing down in the opposite foot, pushing down on the foot that is on the chair. I'm lifting and sitting up tall. I am depressing the shoulder girdle. Breath is in and out through the nose. And folks, this also massages the ascending colon, which is important because our colon gets stagnant when we're sitting in a chair a lot. And then we're going to lower it down. Just make sure that knee is fine. We're going to lift the other one up. Let's get the descending side. Hugging it in. And breath in and out through the nose. And I'm going to see, I'm just changing it up with the arms a little bit. Opposite arm on top, push down one foot on the floor, the opposite foot up on the chair, and let's relax it down. Now we're going to do something called unilateral hip rotation. Unilateral, all that means is doing one side at a time, which we've been doing quite a bit of here. So again, I'm going to tie in the bolster for this one. So I'm going to bring that bolster behind me. So it's going to bring me a little more forward on the chair. Plus, it's going to help me from like collapsing back. So I'm going to push down on my left foot and I'm going to lift the right. And for the rotation, all it is hip circles. Now, for some people, they may not be able to drag their toes along the floor. That's okay. You don't drag them along the floor. But don't do this, folks. I get a lot of people like hanging out and flopping over to sides and stuff. Don't let that happen. We're going to reverse direction. So you can do like 4 or 5 in each direction. We want to get your blood, the lymph fluid, water, nutrients, they all travel into the blood and go to your joints. And set the foot down. Let's take it to the other side. Push down on one, lift the other so you're not slouching all over. We're going to make those nice big hip circles. It's called hip circumduction. The other joint that does circumduction is the glenohumeral joint of your shoulder. Make sure you're not collapsing with this. One more. And setting the foot down. I'm going to remove the bolster here. I want you to stay sitting a little forward if possible without the bolster. Otherwise, use it. This time, we're going to do a unilateral sideways number 8. We're going to duplicate that movement in the hip joint. So it's a sideways number 8. So it's an in and out, and I like to get all kind of free flowy here with it. And what is it? It is medial rotation, internal rotation, lateral rotation, external rotation. And wow, does this really massage the joint. One more in each, and then we'll change sides. Push down to lift, and let's take it. Very free flow, I should say. Let's do one more of each. There we go. And setting it down. If you need to, you can always shake out your hands and flick your fingers if you have any issues with holding on to yourself. Sitting back fully into the chair. I'm not using the bolster or a cushion behind me. Bringing my hands through the window of the chair. Latching my fingers under the seat as a reminder for carpal tunnel. This position of the feet is called dorsiflexion. Now, like when we're working out in a class, people say flex, but I want you to understand this is dorsiflexion. When you point down, this is plantar flexion. So I'd like you to dorsiflex the feet, and I showed this right in the beginning. So you're going to inhale, open the legs. This is hip abduction. We need to be careful. Osteoporosis of the hip, hip replacement. I want everybody to not go any wider with your thighs. Measure the outside of the thigh to the outside of the chair. The feet will be wider than the legs of the chair. And then I slowly draw it together for hip adduction, adduction toward the midline. So inhale to open, pause. Exhale, slowly close. So we've done hip flexion, and we did medial and lateral rotation. We're doing abduction and adduction of the hip joint. Try to keep the legs up. You're strengthening those quadricep muscles of your thighs. With the feet fully dorsiflexed, you're even engaging your shin muscles. We don't send them a lot of love, and it's important because they're important to our balance, and they are important for the strength of the knees. And I'm going to do one more. So you can do like 10, which is the count of 1 and 1. And then we bring them back in, and let's lower them down. So because of this movement, keeping our hips in flexion for quite a bit, now is when we need to tie in hip extension. So this is the one I showed you here before, but I'm going to break it down now. So when I do this, my outside glute is not on the chair. So if you are not comfortable with that, you feel like, hey, that's a little too much for me with balance, etc., don't do it, all right? I am holding on to the chair. My inside glute that you don't see is fully on the chair. Now I'm going to lift up onto the ball of this outside foot, and holding on to the chair, I am sliding back, pushing back through the heel. Now I'm sitting up higher as I lean back more. And I want you to think you're drawing the outside hip forward, pulling the inside hip back. This will square off your pelvis and hips. And this is definitely a hip extension. If I go deeper into this, I'm going to come into back extension as well. Breath in and out through the nose. And if you feel you can be challenged a little bit more, both arms up, but do not let go if it's iffy at all. Don't want anybody falling off the chair. And then inhale, hands to the heart, hold on to the chair. Exhale, flatten the toes to the floor, slide forward, get into the chair first before you turn around to do it to the other side. Remember, this is definitely something you can omit if it's a little too dicey for you. That's okay. But for those people who can do it, it's good that they know that there's an option. So sliding back on the ball of the foot, important to get the outside hip as if we're bringing it forward, inside hip, pulling it back. Holding on very tightly here. You can stay holding on the front seat, or you can lift the arm up. So this is a variation on Anjaneyasana, crescent moon in yoga. But it is a back extension and hip extension. And inhale, hands to the heart, hold on. Exhale, soften the top of the foot, slide forward, come into the chair to take it out in front. And yes, I was wondering when this was coming up. So let me just I'm going to give you something first here to sort of ease into it. So I want you to grab both blocks. And we're just going to chill out here for a few moments and allow those hip adductor muscles, the inner thighs and the hip joint, to just relax. So we're going to bring the sides of the feet. I have 2 blocks stacked, sides of the feet, and I'm just letting this all go. So we've got a combination going on here. We have a hip abduction, but we also have external lateral rotation, just relaxing all of this. And if you would like to, you can bring those arms up and overhead. Notice I'm not doing this, right? I'm softened elbows, and I'm just going to work it dynamically, which means in movement. It's a stretch, but it's a dynamic stretch. And this is really nice for the shoulder girdle, aka pec girdle. But again, if you've been told, medicated or not, hypertension and rotator cuff or pinched nerve, not to bring arms up and overhead, then don't. That's okay. Maybe you can do the shoulder rolls instead. We hold here. Breathe into the chest. And then gently lower the arms down. Now, you place your hands to the outside of the knees. Inhale, exhale, you draw the knees together. Now, for the next movement, which can be a little challenging for some, okay? You can work from here, meaning you've just lifted the floor closer to you, so it might make this a little kinder for you. Now, having said this, I'm going to move the blocks. And you could also use the strap, and especially those of you with the spine flexion issues, feel free to use the strap. So I'm going to push down on my left foot, lift the right. Now with my peace fingers, man, okay, it's called yogi toe lock. I'm wedging them between the big and second toe, and I'm pulling the knee to the chest. What is this? Hip flexion, right? And now I'm going to lift that leg up. I want to stretch the whole posterior side of my leg. I get this all the way to the glute, folks. So you can bring your arm out. You can hold on to your chair. You can bring the hand to the waist, whatever is going to work for you. And then I'm going to bring the leg out to the side. Make sure I'm pushing down into the foot that's on the floor. And notice I just bent my elbow. That's because I want that bicep to pull, not the shoulder joint. Hold steady here and breathe. Abduction away from the midline. Now I'm coming toward the midline in adduction. My left hand grabs the outside arch of the right foot, and I just want to tweak the gluteals and the lateral rotator muscles that are tight in the hip and give them a little stretch by bringing them into a form of a medial rotation. And the opposite arm, maybe you want to bring it out behind you. You don't have to. You can hold on to the chair, whatever. And then I'm going to come back to center, bend the knee, and I'm bringing the hip in. I'm bringing the leg into hip flexion and take a hold of the foot, crisscrossing the hands. If you have the flexibility, push down in the outside foot. Inhale, exhale, lift it up. Puff up your heart toward your big toe. Breath in and out. Get that all stretched. And inhale, knee to chest. Exhale, lower the foot. What's an option for those of you who can't lift? You take this version. Keep the leg down on the floor. And now for the other side, we lift, peace fingers, yogi toe lock. Inhale, hip flexion. I'm still in hip flexion, so now I'm straightening the knee. But I'm still in a hip flexion. This side is more challenging because of a prior existing childhood injury. I feel this, but in a positive way. It's a great stretch all the way from the fascia, the connective tissue underlying the sole of the foot, to the Achilles tendon, to the calf, to the hamstring, to those pesky gluteals, even to the low back. And then I'm going to bring it out to the side, bend the elbow, let that bicep work and push out through the lifted heel. Pressing down on the sole of the foot that's on the floor. So we're in lateral rotation. We're stretching this all out. Even the hamstring, it gets stretched here too. Now we're going into, and this was hip abduction. Now we go into hip adduction. Cross it over, grab the outer arch. Ooh la la. I am getting it in that glute and lateral rotator. You can bring the arm out if you want to do a full twist. You don't want to do this with osteoporosis of the spine if you've been advised not to twist, please. Maybe you hold yourselves here with the leg across because you might have the flexibility. And then I'm going to take it forward. I'm going to crisscross, rebend into hip flexion. Inhale, exhale, puff up the chest, lift toward the toes. No collapsing, it's a lifting. And then gently lower down. And to open this all back up, I'm going to go wide. Those of you who need to go more narrow, please do it. And I'm going to go for that Sufi grind, just to chillax all those areas. I just got a nice, beautiful spine adjustment. It can happen with the work. And let's reverse. And just one last movement that I'd like you to do here. Let's go back to the unilateral hip circle, all right? The circumduction. It's all of the movements of the hip at one time. Push down on one, lift the other. Use your bolster if you'd like to use it. If you don't need to use it, if you're not collapsing back, then you don't use it. That's okay. And I'm going to reverse. And then we're going to do the other side, push down to lift and rotate. And reverse. And a couple of shoulder rolls. And that's what we've got for you today here, Kathy, from Boomer and Beyond Wellness.
Awesome. Hello.
Thank you.
Well, it's so good because you do such a good detailed workout. And
Thank
so, while I know you're very particular about explaining things, it's awesome. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like everyone has a good idea of what works for them and not. And
Yes,
everybody's loving it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, there's lots of cool things.
You never know with something like this. Some people might be like,
Pshaw is what I have to say to that.
tisk tisk.
Right? Exactly. We are watching Bridgerton now, so who knows what will come out of my mouth next. The only request we have at this point, there's a question.
Yeah.
Ollie's youth in Asia was saying, I wonder if this is going back to when you were talking about the hips.
Yeah.
Way early. I wonder if this is the same for both men and women as they have different hip bone positions.
It's the same. No, it's the movement of the joint. Okay? It has to do with the movements. All hip joints do the same movements.
Okay, perfect.
They do them a little bit differently from each other, and I get that. I mean, we have a Q angle on females, so that's why if I was on the floor doing a certain yoga pose called Janu Shirshasana, seated head to knee, I don't recommend that females bring the legs straight out. I recommend they bring it about 10 to 15 degrees out to the side because of this Q angle. A Q angle has to do from when you're standing, the hip bone, right? You have your femur that's coming up to the hips and how that travels down to your knees. So this angle on females is called the Q angle. No matter how slight you are, you're still going to have a bit of a bigger Q angle than a male will.
Awesome. Karen was saying, will we be able to see this again? Yes. As soon as the live is over, you can still use the same link and watch this over and over again. And that's part of what I'm hoping, is that you can come and do this whenever you want, perhaps once a week, perhaps more, perhaps less. I'll let Angela talk to you a little bit about that. But from what I was seeing, and I did some of them off to the side as well,
Right.
is that it felt like good stretches. It didn't feel
that it's not a strength training exercise as such, but just remember, we have to deal with people who, if they have health issues, this whole thing could be strength training for them, only because it could be a perception of your effort, right? And so this kind of exercise, this could be strength training for some, holding it up there for 10 repetitions in and 10 repetitions out. But in general, most of this was all about mobility of the hip, but a lot of it was flexibility, right? Because it goes along with mobility. And there was a little bit of that kind of strengthening. So what I would tell you is this type of approach to the work you can do every day.
awesome. And I thought you were going to say that, but I didn't want to make any assumptions. And again, I agree. We talked about this too, because I asked you for a workout that everyone can do. Because if you guys aren't already in the heartbeat group, we're doing like some moving challenges and things like that. So we're going to be posting these videos there as well. So you can go back and forth and get some community support on creating your own movement program.
Great.
Right? And Apple was saying to you, and of course Apple is delightful, as we all know.
We love Apple.
Fergus loves Apple too, but he didn't like the... Fergus is a weirdo. But Apple says, excellent postural cues. Of course, Angela is awesome. And other people are saying Angela is awesome too. Thank you. Tobias was asking one question. And this would be for another time. He had kind of was wanting to ask you for this exercise now, but I think can make more exercises for the ball of the foot sole, please. I guess ball of the foot is...
Tobias, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a video there for feet, ankles, shins, and calves.
Perfect. And Angela, if you will email me that, I will even go ahead and put it up with this video in the notes, and that way they'll have that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Apple was saying the Sufi grind. She calls it stirring the pot, but either way, it was delightful.
Thank you.
And JJ was here, and Serenity Blues. Mona. So many nice people.
Yeah. I love everybody.
And CJ says, I love Angela. She makes me feel like she's really taking care of us. And I wholeheartedly agree. So thank you.
That's one of the kindest things anybody can say to me.
And Adriana says, oh my goodness, this was an excellent class. I will be sharing this with my physical therapist that I just started. Excellent. Please do. And you guys, always, if you see someone here, especially someone that's coming on as a guest, and you like what they're doing, you want to share it with your friends, family, professionals, please do. That's why we're here. I want Angela to be known by more people. So all your help is welcome. And she really appreciated it. Also, she didn't have some of the equipment like the blocks, but she was able to improvise. So that was really good too.
I'm going to make a recommendation to everybody. You know who has the most affordable of all of this, I have found, is if you're near a Five Below. It's unbelievable. I mean, this stuff is like $5. And I went in there and I bought, well, it's a different type of equipment, but you can imagine how inexpensive this is. I bought 6 kettlebells, all right? 6 kettlebells. For those of you who do not know what a kettlebell looks like, this is one of them that I bought from Five Below, okay? So this is a kettlebell. It's a type of exercise.
No way.
All right, and what I bought was 6 of them, 3 pair, and what I purchased was 5, 8, and 10. I walked out of there spending $40.50. Okay,
That's
why
crazy.
it
That
is crazy.
like amazing crazy instead of
Yeah,
bad crazy. But
yeah.
but
And I'm only, you know, and I have links to that, right, to Amazon and stuff. But I have to tell people, if you don't have the money and you're not going to do the work because of the price of equipment, you got to go to Five Below. And they have yoga blocks, Adriana. They have yoga blocks for less than that. You know, they have and they have different sizes of the yoga straps, different lengths, you know. So you can head on over there if you're near one. I'm so excited because I lived in Miami Beach for 22 years, Kathy, and we didn't have any Five Below. I moved here and I walked in one day and I said, "What's this?" And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I saw this whole fitness and wellness section and I made a beeline to it. And I came out with a big shopping cart of stuff because this was equipment that I was actually getting prepared to use. So it was very exciting.
oh, that's super exciting. Mona says I have a Five Below in walking distance, so she's going to be checking that out. And Adriana, yes, it is okay to share this video with others. Absolutely. Anything you find on my YouTube channel that you can watch can be shared with other people. So there are some things that are unlisted, but you're in my membership or something like that. So don't worry. Most things end up being free eventually is the plan.
I really, you know, really, Kathy, I want people to share as much of my work as possible. I'm hoping to get on all of the whole food plant-based platforms because I want people to understand that there is a channel and somebody who cares about people who have chronic health concerns to be able to teach stuff that, well, I'm going to show different levels of something because not everybody is in the same place within the condition that they might be dealing with, right? So I need to be able to reach as many as possible. And I can't do it on my own. And also because if you have a small platform on YouTube, they withhold the videos. They don't release them out. They wait to see if you have more and more subscribers. So Kathy, I'm asking your followers and subscribers to please consider sharing my stuff so that we can get it out there. I call my channel a chronic concerns corner because it is, you know, and it's all about trying to get past the limited messages that we're being told about our health and, you know, be quiet, sit down, you're fragile. I get all of that, but that is incredibly limiting. And what happens from my perspective, I'm going to get a little dicey here. It's a little too patriarchal for me. And I'm just like, listen, what Kathy just said, we all have a real good idea on what we can and can't do. But we get really stuck in the can't because that's the message. Pop a pill, go get a procedure on a regular basis. Sometimes for sure it's needed, but not for every little thing. And it doesn't serve you in the long run if you have chronic health conditions, because part of this process for me is to try to help instill a little sense of confidence in you about your body. I know what it's like to have the medical community up my you know what all the time, okay? And they did their best to try to break me down and be frightened. I'm not telling you not to have a good sense of fear, and that might be protective, self-protective, but I am telling you there is a way beyond that to stay reasonable in your approach to your self-care while having chronic health issues, and you support it with the diet. The diet allows me to work out and be as physically active as I am. In 3 years, I'm going to be 70. It allows me to do it. So my outlook on all of this is build up one exercise, one movement at a time, and you create what works for you. So on my channel, there's a whole nother series of exercises, and that series is called Habit Your Way Workout. And I literally teach one exercise in each video, but it's a deep dive into that exercise. And I'm showing you 3 or 4 ways for different accessories and no accessories on how to do this thing, because maybe you're in the beginning stages of your chronic health journey, or maybe you're coming out of it. Okay. So I want to be able to try to reach everybody in those different levels, but I need support, Kathy. I need people to come and subscribe and, use, it's like, use me, use the videos, I have images, reference images that are in my community tab for each of the videos. I have reference screenshots. I send articles are there, studies, all of it about the specific exercise. I want you to be as informed as I can help you to be, because this whole thing of, well, my sister's brothers, aunts, cousins, and my friend suggested this or this. I want you to be informed. And that's why I tell people, watch the video. If you're not sure, then you get informed from your medical health care practitioner. And that could be your physical therapist. I don't care if it's your acupuncturist, whatever you're into, let them see it, get feedback. And that can help you make a decision to see, is that exercise okay for me or not? Instead of just going, I can't, because I know what the medical community can do, doesn't always do, but can do is just beat you down into submission. You don't have to be feisty. You don't have to be nasty or anything like that. But there's a lot to be said for being a self-advocate for one's health. I'm going to shut up now.
No, you're doing great. And Apple, for those of you watching live, Apple put the link to Angela's site. And a couple of people, Karen and Lisa, have already, and My Crafty Adventures went and subscribed already and let us know, which means there's others who didn't tell us that probably subscribed as well. So what I really like about your approach is that you make sure everything is safe for people, and then they're not doing something they shouldn't do, or they're educated about what choices they should make is a better way to put that. Because I do think that a lot of people are afraid. Their doctor says, go move, go do something, anything. But if you don't have any ideas of what that is,
right.
It's just like if I told you, go make oats, make some breakfast. There are 1,000 ways you could make them. That's great, but if you don't know if you don't have a basic recipe for Instant Pot or overnight oats or slow cooker oats or steel cut versus regular, right? And and oats are a pretty tiny little pool compared to exercise. But
right.
I think
it's the same concept. I get it. Exactly. That I don't cook, right? So if you would tell me, go make something, I'd be like, well, what? And that's also because eventually I want to try some things. And that's why I watch, I observe, right? That's what you do. And why not apply that same approach to, but it's like, it's a real thinking man's approach to recipes, right, Kathy?
Yeah.
And it's the same concept. You can apply that to exercise. Watch it, observe, see, that one I'm not doing. I'm not doing the one where she didn't have half her butt on the chair. I'm just not doing it. That's okay. See what I'm saying? But I'm going to do the one where she's got the leg out in front. You see what I'm saying? So this is how you build your exercise. I like to call it like increase your exercise vocabulary, one exercise at a time.
That's a great way to put it. And just like cooking or cleaning or anything, there's going to be stuff you like and stuff you don't like. Right. And at the beginning, you have the luxury of skipping some things. Like my yoga teacher, when I used to go all the time, she would just go, you're not really supposed to hate part of the yoga exercise, because I hated it when we were doing standing stuff. Even though I did okay, I couldn't hold it forever. And I'm just like, I would always be rolling my eyes, evidently unconsciously. And she'd be like, it's fine, because I'm like, but I like doing those. Those are fun.
You want to know my concept of why I think balance postures were put on this planet Earth is to piss us off. It's just to kind of just to piss us off. Everybody in the balance is like, wait, and everybody's like, oh God. And I'll go over and I'll totally make fun of them. And I'm like, big deal. Try it again. Who cares?
Exactly.
And that's the point. That's the point. Try it again.
It's a type A sort of thing. You know what I mean? It really is. And there's some things I've found in doing exercise, some things my body does really well and some things it's hard for my body. And I might be next to someone who's even similar sized. And they're just, like my hips just go plonk. Like I'm turned out like nobody's business. So all those straightforward postures are really, really hard. But you could sit next to someone in a class and the easy stuff for you is hard for them and vice versa.
Right. And that doesn't have so much to do with like the joints are all basically not 100% exactly the same in each person's body, but they're pretty similar, right? And it's just, what your body likes best might be from when you're a baby, and that just carries through in life. And maybe like in my case, it's certain things, because I used to play tackle football with my brother's friends and they were 5 years older. So I would be 7 and they would be 12 and I would just get the snot beat out of me. You know what I mean?
Well, that made you the tough lady you are now. And Adriana says, wow, you look amazing, almost 70. I can't believe how good you look. And everybody's just saying thank you. And I'm just really excited about this because I love your approach. I love that you're willing to share some of this with the community. And I think that we can all just, kind of get better all together.
I would like to say, you had once brought this up to me, and if you would like to go forward with that, I'm happy to do it monthly.
Oh yeah, I'm on team monthly, easy. Yeah, so you don't have to twist my arm, but I also you just make sure that it's working for you. So we'll do at least hopefully in November we're doing one for sure. We're going to get that scheduled up, and I'll put that out to everyone. And I'm just really excited. I'm trying to get you to come on once a month and Rose to come on once a month. And then if we find some other people, we could have them on. That way people can see a little bit different. And I just think it's good. It's just, and also if you're, yeah, and it's really nice, smart people we're having on. So like maybe Rose's has the ultimate bouncy personality, which can get you invigorated if you're kind of like, I really don't want to do it. Whereas if you're like, I have some chronic health conditions, I need to be really educated about those movements. Angela is your woman, right? And the combination of the two can be really nice. I like seeing a little bit of everyone, and I feel like, again, in the whole food plant-based community, like I got to see someone when I was in the McDougall 12-day program, but we don't see people coming, that the vegan or plant-based athletes that we see are not usually older, are not usually dealing with chronic conditions. And
there's also an element, folks, of where some folks don't want to share that because they feel that and it's the truth, they feel that they shouldn't share their information, that they should only be paid for it. And I have an issue with that because to me, the much greater issue is this country is lacking in people exercising. What are you holding out on? You get paid for your stuff. That's okay. Why are we holding out? Just put it out there.
That's okay. We got you. We got you. We got Rose.
Put it out there. We're going to put it out there. I should connect with Rose more and talk to her and just, because for the fact that she's doing this with you, we're on the same wavelength of put the information out there.
Yeah.
Why are we withholding? Isn't that elitist? That's elitist.
You would like her too. Like, she's so young. And so she just makes me giggle. I also have a good friend, Caleb, that I got to spend some time with last week, who I adore. Like, he's my Gen Z friend. And I'm like, I'm trying to channel my inner Caleb and respect my boundaries. Like, he's so good with some stuff that I'm so terrible at. And when I first talked to Rose, it was kind of hilarious because I was like, I don't know who she is. And I thought I was going to be talking to her mom because it was about menopausal stuff. And then here's this 20-something, and I'm like, And you know what? From the first words out of her mouth, I was like, oh, I will totally adopt you too. She's so positive, and it's really infectious. And I love how the two of you, I'll hook you guys up too. Like, she's just really, really neat. But thank you so much. And thank you for your generosity in doing this. And I'll have Cheryl chop the ends, with me talking off so that they'll just be a workout. We'll give you that video, or we'll figure that out so you can share it on your channel too if you want to, however you want to do it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Could I ask one other little favor?
Of course.
If people are interested in receiving my monthly newsletter, it's new-ish, and you'll receive links to more workouts and yoga videos this way. There's fitness tips and tricks. I have recipes there. I am hoping to have recipes for the holidays from our beautiful hostess, Miss Kathy, and all my beautiful vegan chef friends and culinary experts are like, I'll send you a recipe and all of that. And also this month, I'm gonna have a special little section featuring pet animal rescue as well. And usually they come out the first week of the month. So it's gonna be soon then for November. But so if you're interested in my newsletter, then you would go to my website, which is boomerandbeyondwellness.com, and simply go to the subscribe tab. And as a thank you, you will receive a workout that I designed specifically for the newsletter subscribers. And Kathy, that was a riot because I did several polls for that. And I offered like 5 or 6 options. It came literally 50-50. Some wanted strength training, meaning weights, and others said chair exercise. They didn't say chair yoga, and that was an option. So it was chair exercise and strength training. I went, all right. So I created a chair total body workout.
Then everybody who's here today needs it. So definitely go to boomerandbeyondwellness.com, sign up for Angela's newsletter, and get all the goodies. It's free, so why not? And she doesn't email all the time like I do. I try to email every day. You don't have to read it every day. It's okay. So just know that. No, I'm not expecting you to, but then that way, whatever day works for you, it works good. So you're not signing up to get something every day. And she's
it's only monthly. I promise it's monthly, unless there's like an event in between there, and then I'll quick send out something regarding that.
Well, thank you so much, and I can't wait to have you back on next month, and I can't wait to put some of this out in the newsletter, and we'll get some good replays on this. You guys all do please go and like Angela's YouTube channel, go subscribe to Angela's YouTube channel, her newsletter, and share this video so more people can find out about her, okay?
Thank you so much, Kathy, and thank you all. I mean, I love my community, we have a fabulous community, and I love the ability to pop in and go, hey, how you doing?
We're very fortunate. Okay, you guys, it's the weekend. Plan something that you can do that's just nice and fun, even if it's watching a silly movie or taking a walk or just watching the leaves fall and having some tea, right? Easy. You got this. And I will talk to you guys very, very soon, okay?